I can tell you that I had nightmares of Colton for months, 6 months, close to 9 months, just seeing him, just imagining him being home alone and that happening. You just feel alone in that grief. And when you're having these nightmares, I'm 20 years old. And to text your best friend in the middle of the night saying, hey, can I come lay in your room because I can't sleep alone because I shouldn't be seeing my brother like this. And, that same friend, and she's, just a wonderful friend and like a sister to me, but she had lost her sister in a car accident in high school. And when we were living together, she just, after Colton had passed, she said, I don't know what's wrong with you, and I love you, but you're so angry. And she's like, I wasn't like this when my sister passed away. I don't understand, why you're like this. And all I could tell her was, it's a different kind of loss. It was an accident what happened with your sister. And in a way, you can wrap your head around an accident. You can. But when someone chooses to leave you, and that's how you see it when it first happens, someone is choosing to leave you. Someone that you have loved and looked up to your entire life and who made plans with you. But you just told me, why are you so angry? And all I could think about was, he left me.
What's left? As a phrase, it's loaded with meaning. It's a description of everyone and everything that remains when someone is gone. The cost of suicide is more than one life, more than one person's future. That single action creates a far-reaching ripple effect in the lives of friends, family, and community, the ones who are part of what's left behind.
My name is Erma Pino. I have 6 daughters and 1 son. My daughter, Jasmine Pino, she was in the Marine Corps, United States Marine Corps. She was really very outgoing. She's happy around her sisters and her brother. They do things, they go out movies, they go hang out. Those were high school and college days. She had several jobs. And one of them, she worked at Native American program for Head Start, and she worked there for a long time. And then finally she's seen a lot of Native American kids that didn't have nowhere to go, So she signed up to be a foster care, and she took in children, Native American children. She took them into her home and took care of them, provided them, with what they need. She really loved, really enjoyed that, because she's really close with her nephews and nieces. She's really always taking care of them, always doing things for them. She makes everybody laugh. She was very warm, a beautiful soul.
I'm Josephine Dirksen, and I am now the president of the Sergeant Colton Levi Deer Foundation. Growing up, it was the 4 of us for a while until Audra came. So it was Colton as the oldest, and then Haley, myself, Wyatt, and then 11 years later, here came Audra. Colton was a typical older brother and didn't want you touching any of his things or messing with his stuff. His room was his stuff, his property. Don't come in, don't bother me, this is mine. But then you also had him jumping in the living room, playing games with you, wrestling around. In high school, he had to keep his image, and he had younger siblings, and he was, tough guy in high school, and really always the tough guy. But after he had left and gone to college and the military, he became even more protective of us siblings. And when he came home, he was eager to see us, always do stuff together, but again, always reaching out. And then, in high school, Dad had left to go overseas, and when he was gone, that was really challenging for all of us kids. You know, Colton would come home on his breaks and his leave, and I can remember my junior prom, he was there to do father-daughter dance with me. He really just stepped in as the man of the house when Dad was gone, which was very important to all of us. And you hear it all the time about multiple praises of, you know, what a soldier he was, what an athlete he was, but I mean, in reality, he really was, you know, an incredible wrestler and horseman and soldier. He just, you know, everything that you hear about him is true. And, you know, the only way that I can describe Colton is just a unique soul.
Oh, my name is Mark Urban. I'm a therapist. I've been a therapist for about 18 years. I was a therapist with the Department of Veterans Affairs for about 7 years. During that time, I was originally hired for their PTSD program, and then after that, I occupied a role in suicide prevention. Like, when I've always thought about suicide, I sometimes would say, look, if you got that buddy, you know, the song I always think of is Bubba Shot the Jukebox last night, you know. Instead of hear the sad song, you know, well, he lost his dog, he lost his girlfriend, he lost his job, you know, he's just down in a funk, you know, and it slowly closes in, you know. If you have somebody in your life who you've noticed or who's been saying, you know, this, that's the challenge. And then those spaces we can't see to the next day. And so that's why they get, you know, a person just gets tunnel vision. They can't see the beautiful world out there. They can't hear the beautiful world out there. Honestly, it takes a while to sometimes get through the fog.
With suicide, the first question is always, why? Why'd they do it? We will eat ourselves up trying to sort out the motive and the reasoning behind it. Or worse yet, we'll tear each other down trying to place the blame.
I didn't even know she was a sergeant. She never told me nothing until I seen the papers and her certificates and stuff. She enlisted in the Marine Corps at Sioux Falls. She entered active duty on April 27th, 2009 at Paris Island, South Carolina. She had a lot of medals, decorations and awards and ribbons. She was out June 2015. She got out and came home all medicated. She didn't want to talk about it much. She had like 12 medication. She really didn't want to talk about it to me. I can see that she wasn't, you know, as happy as she was. It just wasn't her. She's really moody, and sometimes she's like frustrated. And a few times I seen her crying. She would tell me. I just couldn't reach her. I didn't know what to do. Sometimes as a mother, I was really trying to make it better. Really think I could fix it, make it better. And there's nothing I can do. Nothing.
We had gotten closer as the years had gone on. I was 20 when Colton passed away. Haley and I were going to school at SDSU at the time. And him and his girlfriend at the time, Emily, had stopped in Brookings to see us for a little bit. The visit, you know, home went great. I thought, you know, as a 20-year-old kid, I thought everything went smooth. Emily was there. Colton just seemed happy, and he just seemed to enjoy his time. He rode horses when he was back home. To me, I didn't see a whole lot of red flags up until about the day that we were getting ready to go home. We had planned to go home a little later in the week. We left early, but I remember Colton stopping me at the door, and he just held me and he asked me if we could just please stay a few more days. He held me and he begged me to stay, and I just said I can't, and I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, you know, you're getting out here in a couple months and you're going to be back home. And, you know, I just thought again, I'll see you soon.
She took off. I didn't know where she was. Everybody tried to figure out where she went. Some of them were texting saying she's okay, she's all right. Actually, the second day, I wanted to call the cops, but they said, no, Jasmine always goes to the ER. She's probably at Monument Health. One time she even took herself to Sioux Falls and checked in, and she stayed there, and she would come home. So they said, she's probably over there and she's getting well. I went out looking for her. Me and one of my daughters drove and trying to find her. They said, don't call the cops, you know, she'll be okay. What if she comes back? You're gonna embarrass her, you know. But that Monday morning I went to work and I couldn't even focus. Nobody at work knew. I said, I'm gonna call someone at the veteran. But prior to that, we all got a message on our phone. And it was a suicide message from her. And she sent a text message to all of us, me, her dad, and all her sisters and brother. She said she was emotionally, physically, mentally hurt. She didn't want to go on anymore. She just told us to take care of the kids. Don't argue and don't fight among each other. Live your life to the fullest, you know. I can't do it. I thought I could do it, but I can't. And she just said this would be the last time you'll hear from me. Because when you find me, I'll be gone, she said.
Colton was making a trip around, so he, you know, came home for Easter, and then he went to Colorado to see some family there, and then he went to Texas to see some family. So we had talked on the phone on his way to and from Texas, and on his way back to New York, he told me he was at a pay toll and he needed to get off the phone so he could pay the toll. He said, I love you, I'll talk to you later. But, you know, right after I got off the phone with Colton, my mom had called to tell me that Colton and Emily had broken up and told me that he needed some space. And, you know, I thought on the phone he seemed okay. He really held it together. And that was the last time that Colton and I had talked to each other. I mean, I have no regrets about that conversation. We both said, I love you. And I'm glad that those are our last words that we had with each other. But in the back of my mind, you have all these afterthoughts. Why did I not check in? You know, why didn't I pick up on his tone of voice? Did I miss something? What didn't I see? Why didn't I even text him to just say I'm here for him? Why didn't I do all these things?
As a therapist, I mean, I routinely hear about, you know, people having suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideation. At its core, what you want to make people understand is like it's okay. Whatever you're thinking and stuff like that, like it's okay. Like you've been in pain for a long time, and like what are you thinking? What are you thinking in response to that pain? And the natural thought is I want to be out of that pain. And one of the options available, oftentimes when people have a lens like this, is like, I just want to be out of that pain. I just want the pain and suffering to end. I've had these dark thoughts. I've had thoughts of killing myself.
It's understandable. When we feel so helpless, swept by these strong emotional currents, we crave, we need agency and control. So we rehash every moment of every event, asking ourselves, was there something I could have done? What could I have said? How could I have fixed this? At times, the constant self-reflection will cause us to internalize our pain. We'll conjure up an answer to the question of why, by convincing ourselves that it was something wrong in us all along. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't loving enough. I wasn't enough.
I got a call from Dad early in the morning, and he asked if I knew where Haley was, and I said no. I mean, I'm assuming it's at his house. It's early in the morning. Haley's not here. I don't know where he is. He's not answering his phone. What's going on? And I could just tell in Dad's voice that something was really wrong. And, he didn't want to tell me. And I just said, Dad, what is going on? And he had told me that Colton had hurt himself, and I asked if he was okay. And he said, no, he's not. It's so weird because, you talk to some people about things like this and they don't remember a single thing from that whole time frame. And I feel like I could remember every single detail 12 years later.
I knew something happened, something was wrong. And how they found out was they pinged her phone where she last called from. They pinged her phone. And that was like 48 hours. I was with my other daughter, and the boys had to get to their appointment. So I got a call from my daughter. The sheriff wants to talk to you, and he's gonna call you because they found her. She was deceased. They found her vehicle on top of Sheep Mountain, and she was in the car. She was sitting on the driver's side, and they said she was slouched over the steering wheel. She had a pistol in her hand. That was her dad's pistol. November 20th, she passed away. And they didn't find her 20th, 21, 22. 3 days after that, they found her. She was 33 years old.
And, after meeting Haley, he held my hand the entire way home. And we sped home. And I just remember saying, slow down, because we don't need something to happen to us too. And Mom and Dad couldn't take that. And he held my hand the whole way home. And we get home, and there's so many people at our house. There's just so many people. And I'm so thankful that so many people were there. But at the same time, to try and process everything and to even talk as a family, it was hard. We had friends come from other states to come back home and to visit us. And, in that type of a situation, it was nice to have the true friends and family that you have to come and support and rally around you. And it's those people that you might not talk to all the time, but that are there for you to check in and are there when something really happens. That was really important. And it was hard to be around so many people, but it was almost impossible to be alone.
We'll struggle to find meaning for the rest of our lives because ultimately, the one person who has any answers is the one person we can't ask. We're left with fragments of a picture of a person that we thought we knew so well. We can only guess about their anguish and how they suffered. We'll never know for sure.
I didn't know anything, I didn't know too much of what happened till after she passed away. All these things, I got a call from the VA, and a counselor called me and said condolences, and she said she knew her. Did she ever tell you? I said, ever tell me what? She never told me nothing. Well, this happened to her. The bad things happened to her now. She never told me though. She told her brother. I asked her brother what happened. I promised her. She told me not to tell anybody. So he's dealing with that too.
There's PTSD, and there's also something called moral injury. They don't feel like their family understands them anymore because, I'm different. And the other thing is, moral injury can also be not only what others did to you, but also like I was from Podunkerton, South Dakota, and I grew up in Leave It to Beaverville. And then when I came over to the other side of the world, I saw the worst in humanity, and further, I was part of the worst of humanity. I did things and I committed sins, unconscionable sins that, you know, I didn't think I was capable of. And that's a big moral injury too, because I'm a bad person.
Part of me has to let go of some of those feelings of what could I have done, because I really felt like I was there for Colton, but I didn't ask those questions. But I also feel like I do know him well enough that he wouldn't have told me. He would have confided in someone who might have known his situation a little bit better, but I was naive to that. I wasn't in the military. I had no clue what he had actually gone through. Until you start, you know, getting together with some of his friends and hearing those war stories and everything that he's done and all the missions that he's completed and all of these things. But he would never share that with me. He would never want me to know what he experienced.
As the reality sets in and takes root, there arises one final question. It's a deep and searching question, asked by those who've lost someone so integral to their very being. What's left? What's left of the person in the life that used to be?
And I've seen every single person in my family change in a different way. Everyone has changed. And you know, people who we've known for years, some will see it, that we've all changed. Other ones, people who are maybe temporary in our lives, or were close at one point but are no longer close because maybe they don't like the way that we've changed. But Colton's death has changed every single one of us.
Yeah, everybody just went their own way. Everybody was angry at each other. Everybody blamed each other. Everybody blamed each other for what happened. They were angry, were drinking, fighting. Now everybody's all broken up.
You know, there's a piece of you where that little bit of anger comes back. And you try to, you know, get over it. It's been 12 years. You try to release that pain and that anger. It's still there, and it shouldn't be. I shouldn't be upset with my brother, but, you know, he's my brother, and I'm going to be a little upset with him, and I don't want to be, but I feel like he's missing out on so much. He has 7 nieces and nephews now that he's not here for. He missed Haley's promotion to captain. He missed Wyatt's wedding. You know, what an excitement that we have twin girls now. He didn't get to see that opportunity of having twins in the family. You know, all of us kids getting ready to be out on the ranch and living out there. Just having that family bond that we have. He's not there. You know, every holiday, you sit back and you see the beauty that is around you with all of our family there. But there's that piece that is still not there. And you just wonder, you know, what would life be like if you were here? And you just constantly wonder. And I don't think that that'll ever go away. You know, the anger might go away after some more time. But that constant wondering what it would be like to have him here.
And when they go there, or if you feel like they're going to go there, then you just ask them the honest question. You know, have you had any thoughts of killing yourself? Have you had thoughts of suicide? And here's the thing you really want to pay attention to, because when I used to do trainings on this, I would tell people, have you had any thoughts of suicide? Because what people do, and even therapists do this, because we're afraid of going into that space. We give with our body language. Please don't tell me. Please don't tell me that you're having thoughts of suicide. And really what I want to say to people is like there's honestly not a lot to be afraid of, because like chances are they have had some of these thoughts, even if they're not present right now. They might have had them previously. And on what you want is an authentic conversation. You want to get to a point where we're talking honestly about this.
You know, if we would have asked those questions, would he have been honest with me? And my guess would be no. That is one of the things that's the hardest for me, is to think about. If I would have asked Colton, would he have been honest with me? And I don't think he would have been. I don't think that he wanted his little sister to see him in that light, because he was our protector. He was our oldest brother. He was the one that we all looked up to. He was the one that taught us a lot of things. He was always there. And that's the thing that gets me, that's the hardest, is he didn't say anything. You know, we had that last conversation. He said everything went wonderful. He saw his friends in Texas, and, you know, he was ready to get back, and Corey was going to be coming back home soon, and he had those things to be looking forward to. And he just had pure joy, is what it sounded like in his voice. He didn't lead on to anything.
We will get through it, but we may never get over it. We'll carry the memories with us, the good and the bad, as we forge ahead. The burden isn't light, but we're not alone. We've been cursed to bear the gift of knowledge and perspective, but we can share that gift with others as we turn our focus on what's left to do.
It's easy to get wrapped up in the deep and the heavy stuff that we do, but Colton was a fun, full of life guy who would go out and, you know, do crazy things and just try to put a smile on anyone's face. And we need to remember that, and we need to teach the next generation who that was. And just to keep his memory alive, because again, like I said, we get so wrapped up in the day-to-day and assisting other people, but we built this foundation for Colton and just remembering who he was. Now, you know, Letty is 8, and she's asking more serious questions. You know, what really did happen to Uncle Colton? And so we've gone through conversations about mental health and what suicide is, and we've had those detailed conversations, but she knows that her uncle was a fighter, and she knows that you know, he's an honorable man for what he did in the military, and that he was, you know, that mental health is just, it's a sickness. And so we've talked about that, and that he was in pain. But at Colton's funeral, an open casket, and seeing Colton at the viewing, you know, you don't believe it in the first place. You don't believe that something like this actually happened. Colton was gone in the military. He did 2 tours, he was gone. He wasn't around, you know, he was deployed. And so in your mind, you're just telling yourself, he's just, you know, he's gone again for a bit, he's coming back. And you don't fully put it together. And then it didn't help, you know, and I don't mean to be graphic, but when you go to the viewing and you see that, that's not my brother. It doesn't, you know, that doesn't look like my brother. And it was very challenging for, you know, Wyatt and I had that conversation, that it doesn't make anything seem more real when it doesn't look like my brother laying there. And that's not the man that I knew. That's not the man that I grew up with.
At her funeral, the Lakota spiritual man, leader, Marlin Medicine Horse, we were allowed to feed her one last time. So my oldest daughter, the one that was there, Tamara, she made lines for her in her eyes, representing that she was walking in the dark, that she would find her way from that. And I fed her the choke cherries in her mouth, so she would have, you know, nourishment as she's walking through the darkness until she finds the light.
It's difficult for me to go to the cemetery sometimes to see Colton, because that's not where I see Colton and it's not where I feel him. I feel him out on the ranch when I'm riding a horse, and you know, I can just see him riding next to me and having a conversation.
I could see her laughing, but behind all that, there's more, you know. But she's laughing, smiling. But it's really hard, you know, for her taking her life when she had so much to live for. She hadn't even got old yet. Still young. Till this day, I miss her. Every day.
That's the thing with suicide. You always think about, what could you have done? What could you have asked? Why didn't he ask? It's hard.
Get it on your mind. Think about what's left.